My brother insisted I hand over my house to him since he now has a baby. He's labeling me a traitor. So, my brother Mark appeared at my house last week, unexpectedly carrying his newborn in one arm with a folder of papers in the other. He mentioned he had an important matter to discuss. I figured he wanted advice regarding the baby or perhaps just needed a break from new dad duties. I was completely mistaken, just as I was offering him coffee. He interrupted me mid-sentence saying, "You no longer need this house, you should hand it over to us. We have a baby now." Initially, I actually laughed, thinking it was one of his strange jokes. But then I understood he wasn't joking. His expression was completely serious. I simply stared at him expecting a punchline that never arrived when I questioned what he meant. He went into this lengthy explanation regarding how he and his wife Jessica are struggling to make ends meet in their small apartment. Evidently, their landlord increased the rent and they were having difficulty covering expenses with the new baby. And since I'm single and financially secure, he determined I should hand him my house. Allow me to explain, my grandparents left me this house when they died a few years back. It's not a mansion or anything, but it represents my dream home. I spent every summer visiting it growing up, and have many memories connected to it when it became mine. I invested nearly all my savings into renovations, updated kitchen, new flooring, even upgraded the plumbing. It's more than just a house to me, it's my sanctuary. I attempted to remain calm and logical. I told Mark, "I'm truly sorry you're having difficulties, but this house was given to me for a specific reason. I've put in hard work to make it mine," but he refused to let it go. He stated, "You don't have a family. Keeping this all for yourself is selfish. When we have a child to consider." Jessica, who evidently had been waiting in the car outside, entered at that moment. She began talking about how family members should support one another and how they had already figured out how to make this space suitable for their expanding family. Figured out she even had the nerve to propose I could lease a nice apartment elsewhere since I'm only one person. I was stunned. I told them directly, "This is my home. I'm not surrendering it." That's when things turned ugly. Jessica began crying. I'm certain it was fake and stated something like, "I expected she wouldn't understand. She's always been self-centered." Mark became more hostile and charged me with hoarding resources. He literally said, "It's unfair that you possess all this while we're having trouble getting by." At that moment, I was so furious I could hardly control my voice. I requested they leave, but Mark placed his folder of papers on my coffee table saying, "Consider it, it's what's best for the family." When they eventually left, I remained there looking at the folder it contained. Documents proposed timelines for moving out, a budget for maintaining the house, and even a prepared letter to my HOA notifying them of the ownership change. I was amazed by the level of entitlement they had arranged. This, as if it was already decided. The following day, it became worse. My parents contacted me, and surprisingly, they're supporting Mark's position. My mom stated, "You don't require such a large place. Sweetheart, Mark has a baby now, and prioritizing the family is only fair." My dad mentioned something like, "You're single, you possess flexibility, they don't." I attempted to present my perspective, but it was like speaking to a brick wall. Whenever I said no, they caused me to feel like I was some selfish villain. What pained me the most was when my mom stated, "I believed we raised you better than this," as if I'm the one being irrational. For several days, I genuinely started questioning myself. Was I being self-centered? Should I simply allow them to have the house? But then I recalled all I've experienced to make this place mine: the late evenings removing wallpaper, the weekends installing cabinets, the years I saved each extra penny to achieve it. I understood it wasn't only about the house, it concerned how little they valued my boundaries or my efforts. When I informed Mark again that I wouldn't be handing them my house, he totally lost it. He claimed I was destroying the family and even labeled me heartless. He left angrily, and later that evening, Jessica published a long, dramatic Facebook post about toxic relatives who abandon family during their time of need. She didn't mention me specifically, but it was clear who she meant. Some of my extended family have already begun messaging me, questioning why I won't assist poor Mark and Jessica. Now I sense like I'm being attacked from all directions. I'm unsure how to manage this. It seems like my whole family is opposing me, and all because I refused something entirely absurd. The last straw. This morning I received a text from Mark stating, "If you don't make the right choice, don't plan to be part of our lives anymore. And that includes your nephew." We update, "If you believed my brother requesting my house was terrible, prepare yourself because things have taken a direction I never anticipated. I didn't believe it could become any more absurd. I was mistaken after my brother Mark and his wife Jessica left my house angrily and published their passive-aggressive Facebook post. I assumed the drama might begin to subside. I thought they'd finally understand how crazy their demand was and let it go. But no, rather I returned home from work several days later to discover an envelope attached to my front door. Inside, a legal action. Notice, yes, you understood that correctly. Mark and Jessica are attempting to sue me for my own house. Initially, I assumed it was a joke. Who does that? But as I examined the documents, my heart sank. They're asserting that the house was part of the family estate, and that I unjustly claimed it without thinking about their needs. They're insisting that I either transfer the deed or sell the house and divide the proceeds with them. I was totally shocked my grandparents gave this house to me in their will, specifically explicitly with my name listed. I had no involvement in their decision, but evidently Mark and Jessica believe they're entitled to override that since they have a baby and I don't. The following day I contacted my lawyer. I was still attempting to understand the fact that my own brother would take it this far. My lawyer fortunately assured me that their case was weak at best. The will is solid, and there's no legal foundation for their claim. Nonetheless, just realizing I'd have to handle this situation made my blood boil. How could they drag me into court over something that isn't even debatable? What truly sent me over the edge, however, was when I discovered who was financing their lawsuit. My parents. They've been assisting Mark and Jessica pay for a lawyer to pursue me when I challenged them. My mom attempted to explain it, stating, "We're simply trying to make things equal for everyone equal. What about the years I spent working and saving to make this house habitable? What about the reality that I didn't request this house? It was gifted to me. My dad was equally bad. He informed me, we simply don't want to watch Mark and Jessica struggle. You're managing fine on your own." I was unable to believe what I was hearing. I informed them directly that they were supporting Mark's entitlement, and that I'd never forgive them if they continued pushing this. My mom began crying, stating, "I don't understand what's happened to this family." "Yeah, Mom, neither do I." As if everything wasn't sufficient, Jessica has brought her campaign against me to social media. She's been publishing all these sad stories about how cruel I am for keeping the family home while their baby is stuck in a small apartment. She even shared pictures of their apartment making it appear worse than it is together, with a caption like, "All we desire is a safe space for our baby." Is that excessive to ask? The comments are filled with people feeling sorry for her, stating things like, "Your sister should feel ashamed of herself, and family is meant to support each other." I attempted to ignore it, but then I began receiving messages from extended family members, cousins, aunts, even individuals I haven't talked to in years. They're all stating I should do what's right and assist. Some of them even charged me with being unappreciative for the inheritance. It's as if they've entirely forgotten that this is my house at this stage. I feel like I'm going crazy whenever I attempt to explain the situation I encounter, guilt trips and accusations. It's not simply the lawsuit or the social media drama. It's the reality that my own family has opposed me. I feel like I'm engaged in a battle I never wanted to be involved in, but then things became even more serious while reviewing the legal documents. Again, I observed something strange. Hidden in the paperwork was a reference to a family agreement that I allegedly signed, declaring that the house was intended to be shared. I was puzzled, because I've never signed such a thing. When I presented it to my lawyer, he verified what I was already thinking: the signature was fake. I was furious. Who would sink that low? My lawyer stated it was probably Mark and Jessica, but establishing it would require time. In the meantime, they've been informing everyone I'm prolonging the legal process simply to hurt them. As if that wasn't sufficient, I recently discovered that Jessica has been dishonest about their financial situation. A friend of mine spotted her at an expensive baby store spending hundreds on designer nursery items. She's also been sharing photos of their hardships on Facebook, alongside pictures of expensive dinners and spa visits. So much for struggling to make ends meet. I'm beginning to think, if this was their intention all along, did they view me as an easy mark? Did they assume I'd simply give in and hand them the house to prevent conflict? The idea makes me ill. I've always attempted to support my family, but this seems like a betrayal. I can't recover from the lawsuit is continuing, but my lawyer is assured we'll succeed. That stated the harm has already occurred. My relationship with my family seems damaged beyond restoration. Whenever I consider what they have subjected me to, I experience this combination of anger and sadness that I can't even explain. And the final insult: Mark appeared at my house again yesterday. He had the audacity to state, "You're going to regret this when the baby matures. They'll understand what kind of aunt you truly are." I didn't even respond to it. I simply shut the door. I'm uncertain how this will conclude, but one thing's certain: I'm not surrendering my house. If that makes me the antagonist in their narrative, so be it. Final update. This isn't simply about the house anymore. This concerns a family secret that's entirely destroyed everything I believed I knew about my life. To summarize, my brother Mark and his wife Jessica are taking me to court for my house, the one my grandparents gave to me in their will. My parents are supporting them and even paying their legal expenses. Things have been difficult to say the least, but I was assured that the case would collapse, since the house is legally mine. What I didn't anticipate was for this conflict to reveal a secret that would alter everything. It began several weeks ago. My lawyer had asked for some family documents to additionally disprove Mark and Jessica's assertion that the house was part of a family inheritance, intended to be shared. I didn't consider it much. I assumed it was simply standard procedure, but when the documents, I observed something odd. There was a file I'd never encountered before, marked with my grandparents' names and dated decades prior to my birth. Curiosity overcame me, and I opened it. Inside were letters, legal agreements, and a handwritten message from my grandmother. What I discovered made my stomach drop. It appears Mark isn't my full brother. He's my half-brother. Evidently, before my parents married, my mom had an affair with another man, Mark's biological father. My grandparents were aware of it and were angry, but they decided to maintain the secret for the benefit of family unity. The letters showed that Mark's biological father had given a considerable sum of money to my mom when Mark was born with the agreement that it would be utilized for Mark's benefit. My grandparents took part of that money to purchase the house that ultimately became mine. I remained there in shock, reading the letters repeatedly. It seemed like the ground under me had moved my whole life. I thought we were a typical family. Well, as typical as families are, but this was a betrayal on numerous levels. My mom had maintained this secret for decades, and now it was emerging in the most terrible way possible. Initially, I didn't understand what to do with the information. Should I challenge my mom, inform Mark? I chose to hold on to it for several days while I absorbed everything, but naturally, secrets like this tend to explode on their own. Last week, during another intense argument with Mark, he shouted out, "You don't even understand the complete story. You're not the only one. Grandma and Grandpa wronged." I stopped. I questioned him what he meant, and that's when he revealed the truth. He understood he wasn't my full brother. He's been aware for years. Evidently, our mom informed him the truth when he was a teenager, but rather than feeling betrayed by her, he believed he was owed something additional, like the money his biological father gave was rightfully his. That's why he believes he's entitled to the house. In his view, the house was purchased with his inheritance, so it should be his. I was without words. I questioned him why he didn't simply say something sooner if he felt that way, and he stated, "Because I understood you'd never hand it over willingly." He confessed that the lawsuit, the fake documents, even the social media campaign were all part of a strategy to force me into giving over the house. I was unable to believe what I was hearing. This wasn't simply entitlement. This was deliberate manipulation, and my parents were involved when I challenged them. They didn't even refuse it. My mom stated we simply wanted to make things fair for Mark. I questioned her why she believed it was acceptable to lie to me, to allow me to think this house was genuinely mine only to turn around and assist Mark try to take it. Her answer, "We assumed you'd understand. You have your entire life ahead of you. Mark requires this more." That was the point. I understood. I couldn't trust them anymore. They didn't view me as their daughter. They viewed me as a barrier to Mark's happiness. I informed them I wanted no contact with any of them until this situation was settled. Since then, I've been experiencing a storm of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness. I experienced it all, but I've also begun to feel an unusual sense of relief. At least now I understand the truth. I understand why my family has regarded me like an outsider, why they've always accommodated Mark while demanding me to manage for myself. It doesn't make it less painful, but it provides me clarity regarding the lawsuit. My lawyer is getting ready to challenge their claims. With all we've discovered, the fake documents alone are sufficient to destroy their case, and I'm thinking about filing charges for fraud. Mark and Jessica are persisting, though they've been informing everyone. I took Mark's birthright. Some of our extended family has opposed me, but others have begun to see past their lies. The house remains mine, and I'm not releasing it, but the price of retaining it has been greater than I ever expected. My relationship with my parents and Mark is entirely ruined. I'm uncertain if I'll ever be able to forgive them for their actions. But one thing's certain, I'm finished being the family scapegoat.